So you want to paint the wheels on your car, but you're on a tight budget and you still want it to look good. Well, you've come to the right place. My name is Nick, my channel is Olsen Auto, and I've been working on and building custom cars and motorcycles for the past couple of years now, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of my tips and tricks for rattle canning the wheels on your car to get somewhat professional results on a budget. The budget for this video was about $50, and I think I stayed within that budget. I'm going to show you guys all the supplies you need, all of the tips and techniques that I can teach you. I'm going to show you what paint I'm using, the temperature I'm painting at, all of the information I can share with you guys about painting the wheels of your car. Now, it is a little time consuming and you will need some tools as well. I'm not going to be one of those people who just paints the wheels while they're still mounted to the car. I could not be more against that. So you will need to be comfortable taking the wheels off your car for this process, and you will need to have access to a breaker bar or even a torque wrench if you want to get really specific. So let's go ahead. Let me show you guys the car I'm painting, which is my 1993 Jeep Wrangler YJ. And then I'm going to show you guys the supplies we need. So I'm going to work my way left to right for all of the items you're going to want to paint this vehicle. Now, this doesn't include the tools to take the wheels off, which is either going to be a breaker bar with a 19mm or a breaker bar with a 21mm for your lug nuts. So keep that in mind. You also need a floor jack and some jack stands. Working our way from left to right, this is what I got from O'Reilly's. I wanted to make sure this is something you could go out and do today. So I went out to O'Reilly's, I got their wheel cleaner. It was $8, I believe, for the bottle. This is Black Magic No Scrub All Wheel Cleaner. I'm still gonna scrub, and it even says on the back, if you read the directions, if you have any scuffs on your wheel or anything, you might wanna take an abrasive to it. And that's where we get into our next item. After we've cleaned the wheels thoroughly, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna take some 3M Scotch Brite. Again, this isn't Plasti Dip. I highly advise against using Plasti Dip for your wheels. I did it one time on my Honda Accord and it was absolutely miserable to get back off. Followed the directions to a T and I will never do it again. So since it's regular old paint and this is semi-permanent, we're gonna be scuffing up the wheels so that the paint adheres nicely, and this will also help remove any remaining brake dust. So after you've scuffed the surface and you're ready to begin fully prepping it for paint, you're going to grab your 91% isopropyl alcohol. You can use whatever percent isopropyl alcohol you want. That's just what I grabbed from the grocery store. And to be honest, I don't have much left, so hopefully I can find some more somewhere in my garage. Once you've cleaned it, you're convinced it's as clean as it's going to get. And now I do recommend the inside and outside of the wheel. That's preferential, but I think the wheels look a lot better when you do the inner barrel as well. It'll look way more professional. It'll look like it's actually powder coated. So I have here the 1.88 inch thick tape. It works a lot better for painting the wheels, especially when you have big tires like I do on my Jeep here. You're going to want to get as much coverage as you can with as little effort as possible. I'm also going to be using some newspaper or maybe some old paper bags from the grocery store to wrap around the tire, because you don't want to risk getting any overspray on your tire. As for the paint itself, I'm not going to be using any primer. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It depends on the application. In this instance, there's already a clear coat on the wheel and we're going to be scuffing it up enough. And one of the main reasons I'm not using any primer is the can claims it's got the primer built in. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Krylon paints. I certainly prefer Rust-Oleum. They did not have any matte black or satin black Rust-Oleum. They actually had no black Rust-Oleum paint whatsoever besides undercoating. I'm not going to undercoat my wheels, so Krylon satin black is what we'll be using. I use the same Krylon gloss white, the same color max for my Accord wheels. It sprays decent. You just have to make sure the surface is very clean because it doesn't like to stick to anything dirty. Whereas Rust-Oleum, you could literally spray on literal oil and it'll probably stick. You have everything you need to clean the wheels, everything you need to scuff them up and protect the tires, and then you can go ahead and lay some paint. With the front wheel chalked up, I'm gonna go ahead, jack this car up. I just picked up some brand new jack stands because I didn't have any I was comfortable using that aren't currently being used on the Firebird. So over there, spent $85 on some sketchy Harbor Freight jack stands. If they kill me, it's on video. So whoever's getting that payout, congratulations. Before I fully jack it up, of course, gonna wanna break those lug nuts free, and then we're gonna go ahead, take those wheels off. NASCAR. So I have all four wheels off, jack stands nice and secured under there. And of course, as you'd expect, this process is the exact same whether it's a Jeep Wrangler, a Honda Prelude, 79 Firebird, or an 88 notchback 5.0. So I have a scrub brush and a microfiber. Got the wheels wet, just hit them with the hose real quick. Now I'm gonna spray this stuff all over them, make sure I get all that brake dust off. center cap. So now with all of the wheels washed, they are currently drying. I'm gonna grab a towel and dry them off just to make sure they dry a little bit faster. It's about 63 degrees out right now, so it would take quite a while to air dry, and there's not much sun left for today, so I'm trying to speed up the process a little bit. Make sure you guys start this earlier in the day and make sure the temperature is warm, not humid, warm. So I moved my operation into the garage. Now don't worry, I will be putting down either a moving blanket or some cardboard under the wheels just so no paint gets through. Now, they are still a little damp on some of them. They're still drying a little bit. I only gave them a minute and a towel dry, so that doesn't surprise me. The biggest advice I can give with painting, if you've never painted anything before, preparation matters more than the paint you're using. Preparation matters more than how you spray, how your fan is. Doesn't matter. Preparation is numero uno always. If you prep poorly, you're gonna have a really poor paint job. So the next step right now is to Scotch-Brite it, get it really smooth as possible, any little imperfections. Now, these are aluminum wheels, so don't go crazy with sandpaper and literally wear down the wheel. Scotch-Brite is plenty good. If you want to use sandpaper to get out some curb rash, you can try. That's up to you. That's not something I'm going to help you guys with in this video. These wheels can't really get curbed because they got big rubber on them, so no real curb rash, just some clear coat and whatnot. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grab that green Scotch-Brite, smooth out the wheel as best as I can. Then I'm gonna use some alcohol to finish cleaning them up. Typical green Scotch-Brite pad. Now we're gonna go around and clean these things up and smooth them out. And this also scuffs up the surface. Even if you have absolutely no clear coat peeling and your wheels are immaculate, this will scuff up the surface, and this will actually allow the paint to adhere better to the wheel so that it doesn't just fall off the first time you go down the road. So once I finished Scotch-Briting all 4 of these wheels, and you guys can see they're like super dull now. They're not as shiny as they were. Now, this wheel's a little bit wet because I just tried to blow it off with the air compressor and the water trapped in the air compressor is full. So that was a lesson learned. I got some of the isopropyl alcohol because that's the next step, is a final clean. This is why you want to clean it down after you Scotch-Brite your wheels, because there's a bunch of dust. So you got to get all that dust off. I'm gonna give my wheels one final dry with a clean microfiber, and then we're gonna start masking and painting. Real quick before we get into the masking of the wheels, if you guys are painting on your garage floor, you probably wanna throw something down. I have a moving blanket. Just don't wanna get paint all over the floor. If you're painting outside and you're doing it in like your yard, like the grass, you should be fine, because once the grass grows, you can just cut it out. If you're on the driveway, again, I'll throw down some cardboard, newspaper, moving blanket, anything to stop paint from getting onto the ground. These wheels are pretty nice because there's not much in the way of area where it really sees through. There's like a huge face on it, so there's not much paint that could get through the ground, but it's, you know, better safe than sorry. Keep the garage floor looking as oily as ever. For the next step, we're gonna tape the outside of the wheel right around the tire. I'm not gonna hit that with newspaper quite yet. Got some nice thick tape here, 1.88 inches, I believe. So we're gonna do that all the way around, basically gonna tuck it into this little lip. Gonna tape off the valve stem as well. Because I lack any sort of critical thinking skills, I completely forgot to mention, you're going to want to get like a 99-cent notebook. I'll have edited it in the beginning of the video, mentioning in the list of stuff you'll need. Just a cheap notebook because I use the paper, and basically just went all the way around, masked off the wheels, so now the tires won't get painted. The valve stems are taped off. Now it's time to start laying down some paint. Ignore the basic economic papers. That's from when I was still in school before I dropped out. So anyway, we're gonna get the paint. Gonna start off with a very light coat on all 4. Give it a couple minutes to dry and tack up. And the reason we do a light coat first, it gives the additional paint that we start throwing on the other 2 or 3 layers. It gives it something to really stick to, and it also makes sure that the paint is gonna work with your wheel. Make sure you didn't leave any residue behind on the wheel. Maybe you have brake dust still, or maybe you have some cleaning compound, whatever it may be. You want to make sure you get it all off, and then if you start laying down heavy coats, now you got a lot of paint to remove that might not come off easily. So start off with a light coat. If you guys have never spray painted anything before, like I said, I'm using Krylon Color Max. No matter what brand, color, or whatever you're using, shake the ever living crap out of that can. You want to make sure it's shaken up. If you thought you shook it enough, shake it some more. So I'm gonna go ahead and test it out on this paint, make sure I know how this can sprays and that it sprays well. You don't want to test it out on the wheel, you want to test it out on the paper. If you test it out on the wheel and all of a sudden the can's got a bad nozzle or something, now your paint's gonna look like trash. So you always test it out. Sprays pretty good, so let's go ahead and let's get some coats on these wheels. With the first coat down, I'm gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes. Again, I went relatively light on each coat, and you guys can see I'm sort of modulating my spraying finger. I'm not just, laying it down and doing coats like that. I'm kind of misting it back and forth. You wanna make sure you stay about the same distance away from the wheel with each spray. Since the wheel kind of curves around, obviously, because it's a wheel, you don't wanna do this, like straight across, because obviously right there it's higher, right there it's higher, and there it's lower, so it won't spray evenly. You kind of gotta follow the curve of the wheel so that you stay, I would say, 6 to 12 inches away. So long sweeping motions. Again, you'd rather have the can spraying too light of a coat than too much of a coat. That's just a little bit of advice, and then I'm gonna lay down probably 2 or 3 more pretty thick coats after this. Again, don't go too thick, you don't want to get runs, don't go too close, and don't just sit there and do that, because then you end up with a big puddle and you see it start running right there. You don't want that. You want nice even sprays like that. So in hindsight, I probably should have waited or gone to another place to find some matte paint, because this is considerably glossier than I had imagined. Now, I was able to do this with 2 cans of paint. These are 15-inch wheels, so take that into consideration. I have quite a bit of face on the wheel. There's not much like gaps. It's not like I have 5-spoke wheels or anything. So I would say 2 or 3 cans, maybe 3 to be safe, because it's only $5 a can. But you could get this done with 2 cans for sure. 1 can did most of it, and then the last can was just an extra layer. This is a lot glossier than I thought. This is the Krylon Satin. Very, very glossy compared to what I was expecting. And of course, I made the rookie mistake of I went to lean down to check out the paint up close, and I literally put my finger in the paint, so I got a little fingerprint right there, but that's custom. I might end up running a layer of matte over this in the future, but let's go ahead. Let's remove all this paper and tape. So it is the next day. Now I'm about to go through all the wheels on. I'm showing you guys the final result. Now, you have to ignore the areas where the clear is peeling, because unless you really want to go at this, either with a sandblaster or maybe a wire wheel, but then you risk scratching the wheels, you're really not going to get it out. There are a few little imperfections, but nothing too crazy at all. For like a $20 to $30 paint job, you definitely can't be too upset. Now, clear coat is an option on a paint job like this, not the route that I wanted to go. It didn't make sense. I like this finish, and I'm not a big fan of like the Rust-Oleum clear. I really like to use the 2K Glamour clear. Super glossy stuff, and it sprays really nice once you learn how to use it. So that's an option if you guys are going for a glossy finish. Let's go ahead, let's mount these on the car, and then we'll wrap up the video. So the wheels are installed and they look awesome. Now, obviously guys, make sure you somewhat torque down your wheels, whether it's just with a breaker bar or if you want to be proper, fully torqued on the spec. It's probably going to be around 80 foot-pounds for most manufacturers, so keep that in mind. I did this whole job. It was $10 for the tape, $7 for the Scotch-Brite. I used 2 cans of paint, which were $4.98 a piece, and then a 99-cent notebook for some of the masking materials. If you already have some alcohol lying around, and that's obviously not really a cost, so maybe another $10 for that. So really cheap, and the satin actually dried a lot less glossy than it was last night. I was figuring this is going to be a lot glossier than it was. Thank goodness it's not. It looks really good. Now, pointing out some of the imperfections, that's just water. You can see like in here, where the clear coat was bubbling. You guys can see all that. I couldn't really have done much about that without spending a lot of time going after these wheels, and this is my daily. It's a 93 Jeep Wrangler. It's not like I'm working on a GT3 RS or anything crazy, so I wasn't gonna spend the hours to get rid of the bubbling clear coat. If I wanted to be super proper, I would have powder coated it, but that's not why you guys clicked on this video. Clicked on this video because you wanted to learn how to paint your wheels on a budget and get professional-like results, and that's exactly what we just did. This paint will last quite a while. I wouldn't go crazy scrubbing on it at the car wash, and I wouldn't really recommend this for dirt bike wheels, just because if you're any bit off-roading with it, it's gonna get scuffed up and it's gonna look even worse than if it wasn't painted at all. So keep that in mind. If you guys have any questions or any concerns about painting wheels, be sure to drop them down below. I'll try to answer them as fast as possible. But if you guys did like this video and you're gonna end up painting your wheels, be sure to comment down below, drop a like on this video, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Told my brothers one day we gon' make it. We just gotta grind for that paycheck. Mama told me one day I'll be famous. Remember when she used to say she hate this? Back then they would laugh when I say shit. Now I'm inside all them people's playlists. So one day I'll be stomping.